In Europe, officials debating whether the product should remain on the market or be banned. Here to tell us more, France 24's own Valerie Dekimpe. Hello to you, Valerie.
Hi, Will.
The European Food Safety Authority said it found no critical areas of concern. Does this assessment point towards renewal?
Well, it is the very first step that could potentially lead to that. Glyphosate's stamp of approval at the EU level is set to expire later this year in December. And so this report released by the European Food and Safety Agency was widely anticipated, as it has been seen as a crucial, as it could play a crucial role in the European Commission's decision to actually propose renewing the herbicide. So the ball is in their court now, the European Commission. They will need to come up with a proposal, and only then EU member states will be able to vote on that proposal and potentially extending the approval for glyphosate for another 5 years. Now, if we go back to that report and what's actually mentioned, you said, the agency identified, quote, no critical areas of concern. So what exactly does that mean? So according to EFSA, concerned is defined when it affects all aspects of use when you use the substance. So actually from sowing seeds all the way to the harvesting process. And so unless there are critical areas of concern, then EFSA considers that it can give its green light. EFSA, interestingly, though, said that it identified gaps in the data, so meaning it could not fully assess the consumer risk related to residue in vegetables, and also could not assess all the data related to risk for aquatic plants. But even without those trials, they, in their opinion, were able to confirm or conclude that there were no critical areas of concern. The agency, though, did point out that the herbicide did pose a high risk for mammals.
Yeah, and yet, for years, we've seen research from activists, NGOs, scientists citing concerns of health linked to glyphosate. Why is there no scientific consensus?
Well, the question whether glyphosate is dangerous for humans and whether it can cause cancer, that question is still very much up in the air. And you're totally right to say that there is no scientific consensus, because EFSA, for example, they have concluded there are no areas of concern. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, they say there is no significant link to cancer in humans. But others, the World Health Organization, for example, or the International Agency for Research on Cancer, they have a different assessment. And they concluded back in 2015 that it was probably carcinogenic to humans. And so the weed killer has been the focus of controversy ever since. And you have those different assessments. Now, one of the reasons that explain why there's no scientific consensus is because different agencies, they just use different scientific methodologies.
Different lobbies.
And of course, that was my next point. The lobbying is also very much powerful. And so Bayer, the company, the German company that took over Monsanto, the producer of glyphosate, has been very active. NGOs, politicians have accused the company of exerting a pressure potentially on these various assessment processes. And there's obviously also political pressure. It is widely used in the European Union. Just to give you some figures, for example, it's sold in 25 out of 27 EU member states. Farmers rely on glyphosate pretty much for many of their crops. It's used in the EU for a third of wheat fields, 25% of corn fields, and half of rapeseed fields. And so clearly it becomes a political problem when you tell farmers we're banning glyphosate, but we're not necessarily giving you a cost-effective alternative. Just very quickly, just to give you an overview of what's happening elsewhere in the world. I mean, countries have tried to ban glyphosate with mixed results. El Salvador and Sri Lanka issued bans in 2013 and 2015 respectively, but have gone back from that decision, and it has been reintroduced for economic and political reasons. In Europe as well, the parliaments of Austria and Luxembourg, they also voted to ban the herbicide, but at the end of the day, the government and a court in Luxembourg essentially overturning that vote.
All right, Valerie, thank you very much for that breakdown. Valerie Dekimpe.
Thanks.